Ooh, I would have maybe taken off a little more clothes.
Simon Says.
Weekdays 6 to 9 p.m.
With Chad Saaiman.
Only on Good Hope FM.
It is Heritage Month this month, and we celebrate our heritage and we hype our heritage on Good Hope FM. And I'm doing a series of conversations with incredible, legendary artists. And in this regard, it's no different. Welcome to it, Vicky Sampson.
Good afternoon, Chad, and good afternoon to all your amazing listeners out there on Good Hope FM. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I said it earlier, it's so difficult to take a career that goes over such an incredibly long lifespan and with so many incredible moments to just package it into 5 or 10 minutes. It's quite difficult. But yet I will try my best to keep the focus. I am chatty. Just know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chad. There's so much to be said, but I guess in the times that we're living in, I think it's more relevant actually for me at this point in time to speak about the things which we are experiencing now as a human race and as a nation, instead of focusing on where I've been, because I think, it's important that people do have some kind of background, but I think it's more relevant for us in these times that we're living in to actually focus on the now.
Absolutely. I think, you understand the music industry back then, you understand the music industry in between now and then you understand it right now. You've released music up until this year. We're talking about This Isn't Enough.
Yes.
Which is a pretty crazy story that I know a bit about. But can you tell the listeners how it came about?
Well, actually, it's a beautiful story because Marc Lottering and I go back to the 90s when I first met him. And I just had such a love for the guy. And one of the most down-to-earth, incredibly beautiful human beings that I've met in my career and in my life. And he actually came and visited. Him and I ended up visiting my mom when she was still living in Westridge in Mitchell's Plain. And I'll never forget, he was wearing this brilliant blue, jersey that day, and it just looked so huggable. And our friendship developed over the years. I went to watch quite a few shows of him, and one day I still joke because in one of his shows, in all his shows actually he
plays and sings.
Yes, and he plays and sings, and I didn't know that. So after that experience, I said to him, gee, Marc, I hope one of these days our paths are going to cross musically so we can do some sort of a collab. And then not knowing that decades later, literally, Marc wrote the song in December called This Isn't Enough, and kind of had earmarked someone for the song, but that person at that time was just not available and not really feeling the spirit of the song, I guess. And then
which does happen.
Yes, which does happen. We all can attest to that. And apparently the one day after he'd been into studio to go lay down the vocal and the piano track for the song, he was driving up his road, and there a very good friend, well-known friend of ours and a colleague and someone in the media as well, saw him and was like, hey, Marc, come in for a coffee. What are you doing? And the next thing they started chatting, and she said, what have you been up to? And he told her, I've been in studio. Just started working on this new song. And then she said, can I hear it? And she played it for her. He played it for her. And then she said, she apparently got tears in her eyes. And she said, Vicky Sampson's got to sing the song. And he says, Bitche, ek het so groot geskrik. My kroeshare het so much straight aan die. Because I thought, how did you miss this? How did it, And then the next thing, the conversation began. He sent me a WhatsApp on a Saturday morning, I'll never forget, and asked me to have a listen and to see if I'm keen. And I did. I immediately identified with the lyrics and the gist of the song, because it's about learning to love oneself and appreciate oneself, and specifically geared towards gender-based violence issues, etc. And I think the song just developed, and within 2-3 weeks we were in studio, and then the next thing we created the video. And it's such a proud moment for me in my life, because it's always wonderful to work with an artist who's from home, that you've always had a rapport with. And Marc is so brilliant on so many levels. And I think he kind of made me express myself through this song as well, as this isn't enough, Vicky. What are you going to do from here on in now? Where to from here? So it was quite a retrospective moment for me, but a very proud one and a very happy one, yes. And Colin did a great job of the track. You know, it was a beautiful experience just in general.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
I think it's so amazing because I've heard that story before from Marc, the entire story, but hearing it from you, I'm literally getting goosebumps as you're explaining it, because you're on the other side of the story, and you then go record the song. You're also telling that you're going to take the second verse and you're going to octave it, which to the listeners means basically you're going to Vicky Sampsonize it by taking it a complete, a full octave higher. Which and at first Marc obviously was like, wow, okay. And when you did it and when we hear the record, I can't imagine it any other way. So
in that moment when I actually said that to him, afterwards I thought, really? Are you kidding? Whoa, now you got to deliver, sister. And then it became a natural process for the song, for where it needed to go. And I just felt it instinctively. And I just went, and the rest is history. And I'm glad I did, because I think for me, it expressed another side of my my vocal ability as well, which I didn't, maybe I was a little insecure, and I thought, hey, let me try this. Maybe it can still work. And then it did. Amazing.
Vicky, just tell me you mentioned the 90s. Take us back. Just paint a picture for us. You met Marc in the 90s. You kind of described this moment that I can only visually paint a picture for myself. And it's a music and entertainment industry that's a lot different to now.
Yes.
Firstly, there were probably not as many artists popping up all over as we have now. But how would you describe that time, musically speaking?
I think that was actually an incredible era in the history of South African music. It was still very challenging as a woman of color.
Yes.
As a performer that at that point in time, because I signed my first record deal in 1992.
Wow.
And prior to that, I had traveled to Swaziland and Botswana and Lesotho and worked and been the lead singer in a band called Shine, where I met, the father of my kids and that in Lesotho. And the industry was so different in the 80s, rolling up into the mid 90s. That there were certain disciplines required. And I'm very grateful that I'm one of the people that's had those experiences, because my ex-husband was like a stickler for time and punctuality and rehearsing and knowing what you're doing. So all the things that I learned so much from Trevor, and he's one of South Africa's most well-known and respected musicians and bass players, etc. He was Johnny Clegg's bass player for 15 years. So leaving the 80s, we had our own little duo in Joburg, in Hillbrow, and we performed there, not in Hillbrow, in town. We performed there for 4 months at the Dawson's Hotel. So I was honing my skills, but at the same time, what happened is I started doing a lot of vocal session work.
Okay.
And that's where I started developing my sound and my style and learning certain skills vocally. Into the 90s, of course, how the album came about was I featured on Marc Alex on their album, one of their songs called Never Never. And they were signed to Tusk Records at the time. And Benji and them just went mad. And they were like, who's this woman? And next thing, they were offering me a record contract in 92, beginning of 92. But what had happened subsequently, that I was kind of part of the musical scene as well. And I just auditioned for a role in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And Cameron McIntosh from the musical himself came over, and I auditioned for the role of Magenta, which I actually got. They gave me the part, but at the same time, Tusk Music offered me my first record deal. And so I had a bit of weighing up to do, and I decided to go with the album instead. But I was subsequently back and forth in the musical. I'd go and do ghost voicing in the background, and I just loved the musical stage so much at that point. But Shine was my first album, as you know. And the record company was incredible in the way they had such a machine.
Yes.
From marketing to publicity to I mean, I was practically on every radio show. I was on every newspaper. I was on every TV show that you can imagine with this song, with that first song. Whitney Houston was knocked off number 1 of it was still 5 of Radio 5.
Radio 5, yeah.
Yes, I knocked her off the charts that week of the top 10 with Shine, with Love Will Shine.
I can't believe that. Wow. And how did you feel? I assume Whitney Houston was one of the singers you listened to at least growing up.
Absolutely, yes.
So when that moment happens and you knock off number 1, how do you feel?
I was like, yeah, take that, Miss Houston. I'm here. Not really. I think it was just an incredible moment. I was very young. I was very green, you know. I was still learning to find myself as an artist. But it was an incredible honor to know that I'd managed to do that with Shine. And I think it stayed on the charts for like 6 weeks or something.
Amazing.
That song is still one of my all-time favorite songs. Love Will Shine. And the production was excellent.
Yeah.
Then through those 90s, there were some prolific artists, you know, like Mango Groove came out. There was Mark Alex. There was Wendy Oldfield. There was still PJ Powers. It was such an amazing time of the music industry in South Africa because there was a lot of support. There were lots of live concerts. There was a lot of music everywhere. And so I was very blessed that by 95, when we went in to record the second album that spawned My African Dream, by then I was a little, you know, more confident, etc. And Alan Lazar from Mango Groove, who'd written the first hit songs and that and produced my first album, he gave me My African Dream. Amazing. And that song just continued to roll through right into the mid-2000s, actually, as a corporate song. So I was singing it at all the corporates you can imagine. I sang it at the opening and closing ceremonies of the African Cup of Nations.
African Cup of Nations in 96. Was that in 96? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. We
won that same year. We won 4 SAMA awards. And won another MTVA award for Best Video at Midem. And so I think for me, that was the ground. The ground was being set for me and for my future and my career. And I can honestly say, Chad, that it was a blessing for me. I'm so thankful to people like Benji Moody from the record company at the time who had that faith in me, you know. I feel that they could have, distribution-wise, the album was a letdown because it wasn't selling as well as it should because of distribution. But on so many other levels, my life changed forever because I traveled to the UK for the first time. I recorded African Dream in London. I spent 7 weeks there, you know. So that was the foundation which was created for the Vicky I am today, but not forgetting my background as an activist from my youth days in the Nova Park, growing up in the Nova Park and being part of the Nova Park youth and toying and marching for people's rights and for our equality, etc. So I'm quite astounded that at this point in my life, I've kind of very much almost stepped back into that as an activist for the creative industry, as a voice for musicians and artists.
Yes.
I am president of TUMSA, the Trade Union for Musicians of South Africa. Yes. And we've been instrumental alongside the Copyright Alliance in getting the Copyright Amendment Bill sorted out, etc. We had some great landmarks. But so now it's been incredible so far. And I know I talk too much. You see?
No, I think there's so many gems within what you're saying because with Heritage Month, we want to hear the stories about how we get to where we are today and what lessons younger artists can take from it. And that's exactly why we're having this conversation. If you were, let's say, 90s Vicky Sampson in 2021, what do you think the vibe would have been like?
I would have maybe taken off a little more clothes. And not been quite so bashful and like, hey, look at me, you know? No, but in all seriousness, as you know, there's so much focus today on image and on how you look as opposed to can you actually really sing? you know. And sometimes that is a bit of a bother because we've had all these talent competitions. Yes. And we have our shower singers and our mothers that want their children to be superstars and that. And you know, Chad, from personal experience, this is a calling.
Yeah.
It is kind of a calling. And one thing I've learned about that is my gift and my voice is not for me. It is for those out there who need to hear it, for those who need to be inspired, for those who need to believe that anything is possible. And I think I learned that as a little girl growing up in the dusty townships of Hanover Park, to have achieved as much as I did in my career, traveled the world, met incredible people, worked with so many other great artists, that it also has humbled me. It's helped me to keep my feet on the ground because I know where I come from, you know, and I'm proud of where I come from. So I think it's a lesson that I've always tried to teach the younger guys coming into the industry. Guys, please be careful on your way up your ladder because nothing lasts forever. Remember, you're going to have to come down that ladder. So treat people with kindness, treat people with love, treat them with respect. And it is still a principle that I believe has stood me in very good stead in my life, not just in my career. I treat people with the respect that I would like to be treated with. And I think that is something that is very lacking nowadays in our industry as a whole. I think everybody believes that they're better than everybody else, you know, and it shouldn't be that way, Chad. Absolutely. We are here to share our differences, to share our gifts, our blessings, and to give back. And I'm always asked God, actually, funnily enough, many years ago, because I looked at the lives of Michael Jackson and those big superstars, and I used to be so scared of it. And I said, oh, please God, I never ever want to have to live like that, where I have to hide away and stuff. And the record company had a big problem with me often because I'd be so accessible to the public. We'd go out to meetings and interviews and people would want to come and talk and I'd embrace them and I want to talk and then they'd say, no, you must take a step back. I said, but this is not me. I don't feel it. I'm here because of the public. I'm here because of the people who listen to my music, who take the time to come and watch me perform. So how can I be this person that I'm not? And for a while there, it was quite difficult to find a balance as to who is Vicky Sampson when she's off that stage or not in studio, and who is she in her life. And I'm grateful to say, Chad, that the person I am today is a combination of all those life's experiences, but with the blessing in mind and the memory in mind that I know where I'm from, I know my roots, I appreciate my worth as a South African citizen, and I love my people. I love this country. I love my industry. So I have to treat it with kindness and with love.
And we love you too, Vicky. It was I actually have nothing more to say other than I'm so thankful for the opportunity, and it's an honor for me to have this conversation with you because we are not just speaking about South African music heritage. I'm actually speaking to a part of South Africa's musical heritage. So it's been an honor for me, and I'm glad that you could share all these pearls with our listeners. And this is it's been a great moment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and I'd like to wish. I wanted to say before I go, because there's a very, very big surprise in the pipeline, an amazing surprise when it comes to my career.
Please tell me it's new music. Please tell me it's new music.
It's new music. But there's an incredible opportunity that has just presented itself to me. And God willing, you guys will hear about it very, very, very soon. And I must say, the one song, it features one of my well-loved and best-known Cape Town rappers, hip-hop guys, Jitsvinger. So I will be forwarding that song to you guys as soon as
send it too.
So.
Please
but
send
I'm
it
sending lots of love to you, and thank you very much for considering me for this privilege, and to wish your listeners once again, guys, we can't change the world. We have to start with ourselves, and just to believe that we are beautiful and that we are good, and that we are capable of kindness and of changing everything around us, but it has to start from within. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful Heritage Month, and God bless you too, Chad. And thank you,
Vicky.
Thank you,
Vicky.
Bye for now.
This
This is Good Hope FM.